Late night glow on silent screens. Another story in between. Coffee cold, fingers fly beneath a vast, watchful sky.
Good evening. This is Lydia, Dela Cruz reporting live from Metro Manila. Tonight's top story. The Philippine National Police has announced a temporary suspension of permits to carry firearms outside residences across the National Capital Region. The measure takes effect from November 29th until December 1st, coinciding with large-scale anti-corruption protests scheduled for Bonifacio Day. The suspension, officials say, is a precautionary step to ensure public safety during mass mobilizations expected to draw tens of thousands of demonstrators. The PNP has confirmed that more than 15,000 police officers will be deployed across Metro Manila, with checkpoints, crowd control units, and rapid response teams positioned in key protest areas such as EDSA, Mendiola, and Luneta Park. Police leadership emphasized that the firearms ban is not meant to intimidate citizens, but to prevent potential clashes and reduce risks of violence. Authorities remind the public that only uniformed personnel on official duty are exempted from. The suspension violators caught carrying firearms outside their homes during this period may face arrest and criminal charges. Civil society groups have expressed mixed reactions. Protest organizers welcomed the move, saying it could help keep demonstrations peaceful. However, some gun owners and security professionals voiced concern, arguing that the ban may leave them vulnerable outside their residences. Legal experts note that similar bans have been imposed during elections and major public events in the past, often without incident. This firearm suspension comes amid heightened political tension as citizens prepare to march against corruption and call for greater accountability in government. Analysts say the measure reflects the state's balancing act, protecting public order while respecting the constitutional right to assembly. The protests themselves are expected to be among the largest in recent years, with advocacy groups, church organizations, and student unions joining forces as Metro Manila braces for these demonstrations. The PNP urges everyone to remain vigilant, cooperate with security protocols, and prioritize peaceful expression. Once again, the firearms ban is in effect from November 29th to December 1st. Our next headline tonight: thousands of passengers across the Philippines were stranded today after a global technical issue grounded dozens of Airbus A320 aircraft. The disruption has rippled through major airports, leaving travelers frustrated and airlines scrambling to respond. According to aviation authorities, at least 78 flights nationwide were canceled, affecting an estimated 14,000 passengers. The issue stems from a software malfunction in the flight management systems of Airbus A320 planes, a model widely used by Philippine carriers for domestic and regional routes. The glitch forced airlines to pull aircraft from service until safety checks could be completed. At Ninoy Aquino International Airport, long queues formed at check-in counters as passengers sought rebooking options. Some travelers reported waiting up to 6 hours for assistance, while others were offered hotel accommodations or had meal vouchers. Families bound for holiday reunions expressed disappointment, while business travelers worried about missing critical meetings. Social media has been flooded with images of crowded terminals and frustrated passengers demanding clearer communication. Philippine Airlines and CPU Pacific both issued statements apologizing for the inconvenience, assuring passengers that safety remains their top priority. They pledged to resume flights as soon as technical teams confirm the aircraft are safe to operate. Meanwhile, budget carriers are coordinating with regulators to secure temporary aircraft substitutions, though capacity remains limited. Aviation experts note that while rare, global technical glitches can have cascading effects in countries heavily reliant on specific aircraft models. The Airbus A320 family accounts for a significant portion of the Philippine domestic fleet, meaning even a short disruption can paralyze air travel nationwide analysts warn that the incident highlights the need for diversified fleets and stronger contingency planning beyond passenger inconvenience. The cancellations have economic consequences. Tourism operators in Cebu, Davao, and Boracay report sudden drops in arrivals. While cargo shipments have been delayed, the Department of Transportation has called for an urgent review of airline protocols to ensure smoother crisis management in the future. As engineers work to resolve the technical issue, passengers are advised to monitor airline advisories and prepare for possible delays over the next 48 hours. Once again, at least 78 flights have been canceled, affecting 14,000 passengers nationwide. We now turn to Slovenia Bustros for our continuing coverage. Tonight focuses on the wave of protests and prayer rallies sweeping across the Philippines as citizens unite to demand accountability and an end to corruption.
This Slovenia Bustros for the Filipina network. In Metro Manila, the National Capital Region Police Office has deployed 17,100 personnel to secure protest sites, including Mendiola, Luneta, and EDSA. Authorities anticipate tens of thousands of demonstrators, with advocacy groups, student organizations, and church leaders joining forces. The protests coincide with Bonifacio Day, a symbolic moment honoring the heroism of Andres Bonifacio, now reformed as a call for civic courage. Meanwhile, in Cagayan de Oro, a massive prayer rally drew thousands of faithful, who gathered to pray for integrity in government and unity among Filipinos. Organizers emphasized that their movement is peaceful, rooted in moral conviction, and intended to complement the louder calls for reform echoing in the streets of Manila. The rally featured hymns, candlelight vigils, and speeches from local clergy, underscoring the spiritual dimension of the anti-corruption campaign. Protesters interviewed expressed frustration over what they describe as systemic corruption draining resources from education, healthcare, and infrastructure. One student leader said, "We march not only for ourselves but for the generations to come." Meanwhile, a mother attending the prayer rally shared, "Our prayers are a protest. We believe change begins with faith and unity." These voices highlight the diversity of a protestum confrontational, others contemplative, but all united in purpose. Authorities have assured the public that they respect the right to peaceful assembly, but they warn against attempts to infiltrate rallies with violence. Checkpoints and crowd control units are in place, and medical teams have been stationed nearby to respond to emergencies. Officials stress that the firearms ban in Metro Manila is part of a broader effort to keep demonstrations safe. Analysts say these rallies mark one of the most significant civic mobilizations in recent years. The combination of street protests and prayer assemblies reflects a uniquely Filipino form of resistance where political activism and spiritual devotion intertwine. Observers note that the outcome of these demonstrations could influence public trust in institutions and shape the political climate heading into the new year. As the nation watches, the message from both the streets and the churches is clear: Filipinos are demanding transparency, accountability, and moral leadership. Whether through chants or prayers, the call for change grows louder. We now turn to a series of unusual and troubling local incidents that unfolded across the country, reminding us how quickly everyday life can be disrupted. In Romblon, a jeepney carrying livestock caught fire while traveling through a busy street. Witnesses say the blaze began near the engine compartment, quickly spreading to the wooden frame. Passengers escaped unharmed, but the pigs being transported scattered onto the road, causing chaos for motorists. Local firefighters managed to extinguish the flames within minutes, but traffic was snarled for hours. Authorities are investigating whether poor vehicle maintenance or overheating caused the fire. Residents described the scene as both frightening and surreal, with animals running through the town square. In Manila, an SUV lost control and slammed into the gate of a hospital, injuring one passenger inside the vehicle. Security guards rushed to assist, while hospital staff immediately provided medical care. The driver reportedly suffered a mechanical failure, though police are still determining whether speed or distraction played a role. The incident has raised concerns about road safety near medical facilities, where vulnerable patients and visitors are often present. Hospital administrators have called for stronger traffic enforcement in the area. Residents affected by these incidents shared mixed emotions. In Romblon, shopkeepers expressed relief that no lives were lost, but worried about the growing number of vehicle fires in the province. In Manila, patients and families at the hospital said the crash was a stark reminder of how fragile safety can be, even in places meant for healing. One witness remarked, "We come here for care, not to see accidents at the gate." Analysts note that these incidents highlight persistent challenges in local transportation safety. Jeepneys, while iconic, often operate with aging parts and limited oversight. Meanwhile, urban traffic congestion in Manila increases the risk of accidents, especially near crowded institutions. Officials say these events underscore the need for stricter vehicle inspections and better driver awareness campaigns. From pigs running loose in Romblon to a hospital gate struck in Manila, today's local incidents remind us of the unpredictability of daily life and the importance of vigilance on the road. We now return to Lydia Dela Cruz reporting on the international concerns surrounding the Hong Kong fire and its impact on Filipinos abroad.
Our international headline tonight: the tragic fire in Hong Kong continues to reverberate across the Philippines, as families anxiously await word on loved ones still unaccounted for. Authorities in Hong Kong have confirmed that 13 Filipinos remain missing following the blaze that tore through a residential building earlier this week. The fire claimed dozens of lives and injured scores more, prompting a 3-day period of mourning across the territory. Philippine consular officials are working closely with Hong Kong authorities to identify victims and provide assistance to survivors. In Manila and across provincial towns, families of overseas Filipino workers are glued to their phones, waiting for updates. One mother shared, "My daughter works as a domestic helper. In that district, we haven't heard from her since the fire." Another relative said, "We trust the consulate, but every hour feels like a lifetime." These voices reflect the deep anxiety felt by thousands of families who depend on loved ones working abroad. The Department of Migrant Workers has dispatched a rapid response team to Hong Kong, tasked with providing shelter, counseling, and financial support to affected Filipinos. Officials have also assured the public that repatriation assistance will be extended to those who wish to return home. Meanwhile, the Philippine Embassy has opened hotlines for families seeking information. Though officials caution that identification processes may take time, this tragedy underscores the vulnerability of overseas Filipino workers, many of whom live in crowded housing conditions. Analysts say the incident highlights the urgent need for stronger safety standards in migrant accommodations and closer cooperation between host governments and Philippine agencies. The fire has also reignited discussions about the country's reliance on overseas employment, with advocates calling for more domestic opportunities to reduce dependence on foreign labor markets. This tragedy underscores the vulnerability of overseas Filipino workers, many of whom live in crowded housing conditions. Analysts say the incident highlights the urgent need for stronger safety standards in migrant accommodations and closer cooperation between host governments and Philippine agencies. The fire has also reignited discussions about the country's reliance on overseas employment, with advocates calling for more domestic opportunities to reduce dependence on foreign labor markets. In Hong Kong, Filipino community groups have organized prayer vigils and donation drives to support survivors. Churches across the Philippines have joined in solidarity, offering prayers during Sunday services. The tragedy has become not only a test of resilience, but also a reminder of the global bonds that connect Filipinos wherever they live and work as investigations into the fire continue. The fate of 13 missing Filipinos remains uncertain. For their families, hope and grief walk hand in hand. Now, turning to our legal story tonight, the International Criminal Court has rejected former President Rodrigo Duterte's plea for interim release, keeping him in detention as proceedings continue over alleged crimes committed during his administration's controversial war on drugs. The ICC's ruling comes after Duterte's legal team argued that his continued detention was unnecessary and that he posed no flight risk. However, judges determined that the gravity of charges, coupled with the need to ensure accountability, outweighed those arguments. This decision means Duterte will remain in custody while the trial moves forward, a process expected to stretch over months, if not years. Reactions across the Philippines have been swift and divided. Human rights advocates welcomed the ruling, calling it a step toward justice for thousands of families affected by the drug war. Advocacy groups say the ICC's decision sends a strong signal that international law can hold leaders accountable. On the other hand, Duterte's supporters criticized the ruling. describing it as politically motivated and an affront to Philippine sovereignty. Some lawmakers have urged caution, warning that the case could strain relations between Manila and The Hague. Legal experts note that interim release is rarely granted in cases involving crimes against humanity. The ICC's rejection underscores the seriousness of the charges and the court's commitment to maintaining judicial integrity. Analysts also point out that the ruling could set a precedent for how international tribunals handle similar cases involving former heads of state. The decision reverberates beyond the courtroom for the Philippines. It raises questions about the country's relationship with international institutions and its stance on human rights. For the global community, it highlights the ICC's role in addressing alleged abuses of power. Observers say the case could influence how future leaders approach policies that may conflict with international law. As Metro Manila braces for these demonstrations, the PNP urges everyone to remain vigilant, cooperate with security protocols, and prioritize peaceful expression once again. The firearms ban is in effect from November 29th to December 1st. As engineers work to resolve the technical issue, passengers are advised to monitor airline advisories and prepare for possible delays over the next 48 hours. Once again, at least 78 flights have been canceled, affecting 14,000 passengers nationwide. As the nation watches, the message from both the streets and the churches is clear. Filipinos are demanding transparency, accountability, and moral leadership, whether through chants or prayers. The call for change grows louder. From pigs running loose in Romblon to a hospital gate struck in Manila today, local incidents remind us of the unpredictability of daily life and the importance of vigilance on the road. As investigations into the fire continue, the fate of 13 missing Filipinos remains uncertain. For their families, hope and grief walk hand in hand. As the trial continues, the world watches closely. For many Filipinos, the ICC's ruling represents both a moment of reckoning and a test of justice. Once again, former President Rodrigo Duterte's plea for interim release has been denied, keeping him in detention as proceedings advance. This is Lydia Dela Cruz reporting on the concerns that weigh heavily on the nation tonight. God bless and be safe.
Late night glow on silent screens.